Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Kapinder from University of Delhi, Crude College. Today we are going to talk on module population from paper ecology. After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the meaning of term population and various types of population in the nature. It will also help in learning about characteristics of a population, how various factors affect population density. It also helps in evaluating how age structure will estimate the future population projection. It will also help you to understand the importance of sex ratio and its variation in different populations of different species. Population can be defined as assemblage of individuals of a species which interbreed and occupy a particular space at same time. There are a number of examples. For example, deer population which is living in the forest. Sometimes individuals of some species live solitary, but they interact with each other, members of the same species or others at different times in their lives. Sometimes individuals of some species live solitary, but they interact with other members of the same species or others at different times in their lives. Clark in 1954 distinguished the population into two types. The first is monospecific population. So this monospecific population is a group of individuals belongs to same species. Second type is polyspecific population, or it is also known as mixed population, in which groups of individuals belongs to different species. The term community is often used for polyspecific population. Characteristics of population. The population ecologist Thomas Park expressed that a population has several characteristics or biological attributes which can be best expressed as statistical functions. These functions are unique to the group and cannot be applied to the individuals in the group. Some of these properties are density, mortality, age distribution, biotic potential, dispersion, dispersal, and growth forms. First, population density. It is the number of individuals in relation to a definite unit of space. It is generally expressed as number of individuals or biomass per unit area or volume. For example, 100 people who are living per square kilometer or 4000 crustacean per unit meter cube of water. The density of the organisms in the given area can vary with the food supply, season, and climatic conditions, but always has definite upper and lower limits. The important factors responsible for change in the population density are shown in the figure 1. In this figure, you can see there are number of factors, for example, natality, immigration, mortality, and emigration. So, natality and immigration, they are responsible for increasing the population density, whereas mortality and emigration, these two factors, they are responsible for decreasing the population density. Population density is categorized into two types. First is crude density. It is the total number of individuals or biomass per unit of total space. For example, total rhinoceros in Kaziranga National Park. Another type is ecological density. It is the number of individuals or biomass per unit of the habitat space. It is the available area or volume which is actually colonized by the population. For example, rhinoceros do not occupy all area of Kaziranga National Park, but it may avoid some of the area due to the lack of food, shelter and human habitation. Therefore, the area inhabited by the rhinoceros actually will be its ecological density. The difference between crude and ecological density can be explained by taking the example of a fish density in the pond. The crude density of the fish in the pond goes down as the water level drops during the summer season, but the ecological density in the contracting pond increases as the fishes are crowded into smaller water area. It becomes very easy for the predatory birds to catch fishes at this time of the year, as the ecological density of the fish is at its peak, which you can see in the graph that is shown. Methods of measuring population density. Population density of organisms can be measured by the following methods. The first method is total counts. It is the total count of all the organisms in a given area, especially with large or conspicuous organisms which we can easily observe. For example, conducting census of human population, whales in an area of sea, etc. Second method is sampling methods. In this method, a small proportion of the population is counted, which is used to estimate the total population. Sampling can be done in two ways. The first is use of quadrate. In this method, count all the individuals on several quadrates of known size and extrapolate the average to the whole area. The shape and size of quadrate vary with types of organisms studied. It can be circular, triangular or square type. This method is extensively used for plant populations and many invertebrates. Second is capture, recapture method. The simple type of populations method is known as Peterson method, as it was developed by scientist C.G.J. Peterson in 1898. This method is used to count larger animals like birds, fishes, etc. The animals are captured, marked and released in the environment. On subsequent day, animals were recaptured to calculate the population density. The population at any time will have marked and unmarked individuals. The proportion of marked individuals in a later sample is used to determine the total population. For example, suppose 100 fishes are captured marked and released again into the pond. After some time, again 120 fishes were captured. This include 30 marked fishes. The size of the population was counted by the formula, that is, marked animals in second sample divided by total caught in second sample equal to marked animal in first sample divided by total population size. On the basis of that, you can calculate the population size, and that is around 400, where 100 fishes are marked and 120 fishes were recaptured, includes 30 marked fishes. Now, next type is trap. It is generally used in recapture methods, but also used to determine relative density as the number of individuals caught per day per trap. Next is number of fecal pellets. By counting the number of fecal pellets in an area, index of population size can be determined. For example, by using this method, we can calculate the population of rabbits, deer, etc. Next is feeding capacity. Population density can be counted by calculating the amount of food consumed by animals before and after treatment. For example, the amount of bait consumed by rat or mice before and after poisoning and can be used to determine an index of change in density. Second is natality. This natality can be defined as the birth rate of a population. In general, natality covers the production of new individuals which arises from hatching, germination, or arises by fission. There are different types of natality, and generally this natality can be categorized into two types. The first is known as absolute or physiological natality. This physiological natality can be defined as the physiological ability of organisms to produce maximum number of new individuals under optimum conditions. It is always constant for a given population. The absolute natality or physiological natality is very difficult to achieve in the wild population, but it can be observed only under favorable conditions or when major limiting factors are temporarily non-operative. For example, if a small number of paramecia is placed in the culture medium, under favorable conditions, they achieved maximum natality by multiplying at maximum reproductive rate. It is beneficial for two reasons. The first is it provides a standard for comparison with realized natality, and second is it is useful in setting up equations to calculate the rate of increase in a given population. Second is ecological or realized natality. This ecological or realized natality can be defined as increase in the population size under ecological or actual environmental conditions. It is never constant for a population, but varies with the age, composition, size, and physical environmental conditions of the population. Natality can be expressed as delta n divided by delta t, and that is the absolute or crude natality per birth rate, or delta n divided by n delta t, that is the specific natality per birth rate, that is the number of new individuals per unit time per unit population. Mortality. It is defined as the rate of death of individuals in a population. This mortality can be of different types, and it is generally categorized into two types. The first is ecological or realized mortality. It is the actual loss of individuals under a given environmental conditions. It is not constant for a population, but varies with the environment condition and population, such as predators, disease, etc. Second type of mortality is theoretical or minimum mortality. It is the number of death of individuals under ideal or non-limiting conditions. Therefore, even if the conditions are ideal for individuals, they would die because of old age determined by their physiological longevity. It may be constant for the population. Minimum mortality is always greater than ecological longevity. The organisms in nature actually become old-aged due to the process of aging or senescence. Age distribution. It is the total number or percentage of individuals in a given population in different age group. Age is generally expressed in days, months, or years, but it also considered in other categories such as pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. The age structure also determines the future population projections. The population with high reproductive phase individuals, then post-reproductive phase, shows an expanding population. A population has more or less even distribution of post-reproductive and reproductive individuals showed stable population. A declining population will be having large proportion of older or post-reproductive individuals. Age pyramids. This is the age distribution in a population can be represented in the form of polygons or age pyramids, where the relative width of the successive horizontal bars represents the number of individuals or the percentage in different age classes. There are three types of pyramids recognized. First type is bell-shaped pyramid, having broad base represent an expanding population. Dome-shaped pyramid represent a moderate proportion of young and old individuals. Urn-shaped pyramid symbolize a declining population in which pre-reproductive individuals are less in number. Age distribution has practical value in the wildlife management. A low ratio of pre-reproductive to reproductive phase indicates a poor reproductive season. However, changes in age distribution alone do not imply changes in survivorship or fecundity, and it alone should not be used to predict population trends. Sex ratio. The individuals of a population differ themselves in a number of ways, such as age, sex, breeding conditions, and health. The eukaryotic organisms reproduce through sexual reproduction. There are some organisms which have the capacity to reproduce asexually, but still they have provisions for sexual reproduction to maintain genetic variability in the population. Sex ratio can be defined as the percentage of male and female individuals in a population. The sex ratio can be categorized into two types. First is primary sex ratio. It is the ratio of male and female at the time of conception, and it tends to be 1:1. Second is secondary sex ratio. It is the ratio of male and female at the time of birth. This ratio often favors males in younger age, but in the older age it shifted towards females. In the case of humans, males ratio is more than females at birth, and that is approximate 52%, but as the age of parents increases, the ratio of females increases than males. Similarly, in birds, cattle, and rabbits, the ratio of males is higher than females, but in domestic chicken, sheep, and horses, males constitute 49% of the population. The secondary sex ratio of vertebrates show greater variation. For example, in Alaska fur seal, one male always dominate a breeding group of 30 females, and the male sex ratio exceeds 3%. The other male adult live at the periphery of the breeding group and suffer high mortality. In some birds, mortality of female increases than males, particularly in nesting season. The shifting of sex ratio from 1:1 to unequal during the later age may be due to the physiological and behavioral patterns, which may affect mortality in different sexes differently. In birds, generally the female help males in building the nest, defending the territory, incubate the eggs, broods, and feed the youngs, which make female more vulnerable predators and other dangers than males. The adult males in mammals and adult females in birds expend more energy and are more vulnerable to predation, and this may be responsible for imbalance in the sex ratio in the older age groups. Sexually mature animals, there is a selection process of choosing mate. This process is called as mating system. The mating system is categorized as monogamy, which involves the pairing of male and female, and the relation is maintained for longer duration of time. Monogamy is most commonly found in birds and rarely among mammals. In monogamy, both parents show cooperative behavior to successively grow their young ones. Most species of birds are monogamous during the breeding season because their young ones are helpless and need food, warmth, and protection. Among mammals, females produce milk for providing food to the young. Males often can contribute little or nothing to the survival of the young. So, it is to their advantage to mate with as many females as possible. Among many species of monogamous birds, such as bluebirds, that is known as Cialia cialis, the female or male may cheat by mating with others while maintaining the reproductive relationship with the primary mate and caring for the young to increase their chances in contributing their gene into gene pool. Other mating system is known as promiscuity or polygamy, where males and females mate with more than one of the opposite sex, but does not form any relation between them. It can involve one male and several females, or one female and several males. The individual having multiple mates is generally not involved in caring the youngs. Environmental and behavioral conditions result in various types of in polygyny. An individual male pair with more than one female. In polyandry, an individual female pairs with more than one male. Polyandry is interesting because it is the exception rather than the rule. This system is best developed in three groups of birds: the jacanaes, phalarops, and some sandpipers. The female competes for and defends resources for the male. The female produces multiple clutches of eggs, each with a different male. The male begins incubation and becomes sexually inactive. So, students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. A population is an assemblage of individuals of a species which potentially interbreed and occupying a particular space at the same time. The population has several characteristics. Some of these properties are density, natality, mortality, age distribution, and growth forms. Population density is defined as number of individuals in relation to a definite unit of space. Population density is categorized as crude density and ecological population density. Natality is another important characteristic of the population, which tells the production of new individuals which arises from hatching, germination, or arises by fission. It is further explained as absolute natality and ecological natality. Mortality can be explained as the rate of death of individuals in a population. Mortality can be recognized as two types. First is ecological mortality and another is minimum mortality. Age distribution is another component of population characteristics, which includes the total number or percentage of individuals in a given population in different age group. It explains the projection of future population. Sex ratio is the percentage of male and female individuals in a population. The primary sex ratio is constant, which indicate equal proportion of male and female in the given population, but in real conditions, the ratio vary in population of different species. In sexually mature animals, there is a selection process of choosing mate. Monogamy is one of this system which involves the pairing of male and female, whereas polygamy is the acquisition by an individual of two or more mates. Environmental and behavioral condition results in various types of polygamy. In polygyny, an individual male pair with more than one female. In polyandry, an individual female pairs with more than one male.